John Whittaker, Monica Frassoni there saying, you know, this could backfire against British workers. Now, you've taken on the phrase at the UK Independence Party, British jobs for British workers. That's all over your website now. But, I mean, are you actually acting in the interest of the 300,000 British workers currently working across the EU?
Well, there's some arguments about those figures, quite frankly.
Well, those are Conservative figures, apparently.
I don't mind where the figures have come from. Look, that's not the issue, in fact. Yes, we are behind British jobs for British workers. I'm very, very sympathetic with these folks at the various sites who've come out on strike, and they're anxious, as Philip says, because we are facing a very, very difficult time, expecting perhaps unemployment to go up to 3 million.
But is the answer to that to close the borders? You're facing a difficult time. Isn't this the time to open up markets, not close them down?
What we have to do is to understand what is meant here by protectionism. Protectionism is protecting against goods, not people. Every civilized developed country in the world has arrangements for restricting the number of workers coming into it. Here we are in the European Union saying anybody can come and go as they please. Now, I'd much rather have a much freer arrangement for taking workers from other countries outside of the European Union. We can't do that. In fact, we've had to restrict the number of workers coming in from the British Commonwealth countries like Australia, like Nigeria, like India, for instance. Our former British trading partners out there, we restrict them in order to have free movement from Europe. The country has to have control. Protectionism, if you want to call it that, we want to have British government control over workers' movements, but obviously free trade.
Cannot we assure them by telling them the lie that you can close the borders, because you can't?
Yes.
When we have free movement within the EU, it does mean that any restrictions we do employ will have to be on people from outside the EU. I mean, it would be wrong to deny that that is actually happening.
It's a hopeless pursuit, and legislation gets more and more complicated, more and more opaque every single time. I don't care whether it's about workers or something like VAT, for instance. We've had 8 directives on VAT.
So what's your solution, John, then?
Our solution is for the British government to have control, a points system if you like, but applied also to a European Union movement. So we have a points system applied to everybody. At the moment, it's discriminating
against us.
It's discriminating against people coming in from other parts of the world.
Well, the British government can't have control and still be in the European Union.
Well, it's a damn tight time. We stood up to the European Union and expressed some principles on behalf of the British worker.
Free movement is a positive, anti-protectionist measures is a positive, but if we don't regulate it in some way, and Monica's right to look at the fine detail of, I mean, for example, Laval, we have the Olympics, the biggest construction project in Europe taking place now. I think up to 2/3 of those workers may be from other EU countries. You know, this is not going to go away.
Yeah.
We need to regulate it.
Okay, briefly, John.
This is what's wrong with this place. The answer to everything is more regulation. There were workers going to work abroad from Britain before the European Union was even conceived.
Exactly.
We've been doing it for years and years.
So
now
what's the problem with it,
we invent
then,
the
John?
European Union. Oh, now we've got the European Union. We must regulate this. Everything's got to be written down in the statute book in such a complicated way that nobody can understand it, and so it will give rise to so many disputes which have to be looked at by the European Court of Justice. Leave it alone. Let our own government legislate for regulation to look after our own workers, and for legislation to admit foreign workers from the EU or from the rest of the world as we wish it to be.
Well, the British government can't have control and still be in the European Union.
Well,
the British government can't have control and still be in the European Union. The British government can't have control and still be in the European Union.
Well, it's a damn tight time. We stood up to the European Union and expressed some principles on behalf of the British worker.
To find out more about who we are and what we stand for, go to the UK Independence Party website at www.ukip.org.